Hi guys. So Professor's not here tonight, and so that means I'm going to be doing this kind of technical stuff. So please bear with me. If you can hear me and see me, give me a thumbs up. I do not know where Shpoo was or is. He's supposed to. Oh wait, no, that way. He's supposed to be here. I'm not sure. Maybe he's having technical difficulties. Maybe I. Nope. Okay, so I'm gonna add the Wi-Fi. We're on the same Wi-Fi. Okay, so if you guys. I'm gonna share this again. And okay, so while Shpoo is figuring out his technical difficulty, the password right there. He's here.
Hi. I'll be here shortly.
He's just gonna go to the studio. So just so you guys know, Professor asked me to explain some things to you guys. The GeekyKOOL website is down. We are in the middle of getting a new host to host us, and it should be up and running soon. I don't have an exact date of when it should be up and running, but it should be up and running soon. So any articles that we had planned, or like I had an artist spotlight planned, all of those things have been kind of put on hold because we don't have a website currently up and running. But yeah, we do know that there's an issue and we are fixing it, or actually, Professor is fixing it. Also, Larry's not here tonight, and if you're friends with him, you I saw Shrew. If you're friends with Larry, you know that he had a
Am I
tree.
here?
I see. Yeah.
Hey, how we doing, guys?
So just so you guys know, Larry had a tree fall on his house this last weekend, and so he is currently stationed at a hotel with his family. Everybody was safe, luckily, but that's why he's not here today. But
Yes.
I've been joined by the Skallywag himself. Look at him over there. So today, whoa,
Hey,
you're very bright.
3D.
You're very bright. It's
Am I
very,
bright?
very
Hang on. We'll fix that.
it's very bright.
We'll fix that.
Technical stuff, guys. Technical stuff. It's way more difficult than you
Better?
think. Yeah, that's better. I mean, you look paler than I do, and that's always saying something.
There we go.
There you go. Yay. Okay, so we have Shrew from Skallywag Productions joining us and taking the place of.
Hello.
Um, but yeah, I was telling them that GeekyKOOL's down right now, but we're looking for a new host. So that should be good, and hopefully that's going to be soon. Sooner rather than later, Larry's working on it nonstop, except for when he's working on his house issues and his housing issues. So I'm not used to hosting this by myself, so Shpoo, you're going to have to help me. You're like adjusting.
I'm having a. You're really quiet. I've been trying to get the thing closer so I can hear you.
Oh. Okay. Is this any better?
A little bit.
Okay. So hopefully that's better. I don't know if it's like picking up. You'll see me glance over here. I'm on my phone. The video is, but I had to be on my laptop to get comments and stuff. So if you guys like are watching, say hi. We would really, really love it. And you guys can like chime in on some of the things that we're going to talk about tonight. So tonight, Shrew and I, we have these really weird conversations a lot of the time. And one of our conversations that we really enjoy talking about is TV and TV shows that either we really loved or that they should have done differently or that they should bring back and stuff like that. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight. So we each have
These
a
are
list.
basically like not necessarily TV shows, but it could be TV shows, movies, what have you, that we think should be rebooted now specifically for television.
Yes.
Like not rebooted into a movie or whatever, but specifically for TV.
Yeah, because a lot of the times I know we've talked about this. There are certain movies that would have been better as TV shows.
Right.
And so these don't have to be TV shows. I think everything on my list, I'm trying to think, except for one was actually a TV show at one time. And then I would like it to be. I have one that's not
For the
technically.
most part, I think for the most part, there are three of mine. Well, I guess four. Technically, three of those are all on one thing, though. Were movies at one point in time, but they were also TV. So, yeah.
So we went back basically and thought about any show that we think would have improved or still be relevant or be fun to watch now and how we would think about that. I know I have 6 on my list. I think you have about 6 on yours too, right?
7 technically. So, but yeah, I think we agreed on one of those. So yeah, we'll save that one for last.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites too. So, but so why don't you start with one of the ones on your list? I know which one.
Okay. Mine is a show that one, it didn't last for very long, but it was a fun premise at the time. Not very many people remember it, but it's a little show called Misfits of Science.
Yeah.
It was actually the Courtney Cox's kind of first foray into television, about a group it's about a group of teenagers that all have superpowers and stuff, kind of like a low budget X-Men, if you will. But which X-Men also I think should be a TV show instead of a movie. But that's beside the point. But yeah, I think now, especially with the superhero hype being the level that it's at, I think now is the perfect time to bring back a show that has a small but strong cult following.
Right, and that's the thing is like a lot of the shows that are on the list, or ones that we talked about that maybe didn't make our list, are ones that are like that Misfits of Science, where people, unless you watched it, you don't even remember it existed. And but I forgot Courtney Cox starred in that. I
Yep.
completely forgot she was in that. That's
It was like Bruce Springsteen video, Misfits of Science, Masters of the Universe. Her career got off to a pretty rocky start.
yes, but then she found her friends, and
Yes.
it was all like done
Uphill from there.
yeah, yeah. No. Oh my gosh. No, see that would be a good one. Why do you think, besides the fact that it's a superhero-ish science, like thing, why do you think this would be a good time for it to come back?
I mean, that's the main reason. I mean, like I said, I mean, the show, I don't even think it aired an entire season at the time. It was one of those shows that was very under the radar. And I mean, within a year of the premiere of the show, 2 of its main cast members were dead. So it wouldn't have continued, or it would have been a pretty big mix up if it had. But so it died off pretty quickly. And I mean, you can find all the episodes are on, I think most of them at least are on YouTube now. So you can go back and watch them all. But it's mainly just has to do a lot with the superhero hype. I mean, that's kind of like what's popular right now. And while it's not based on a comic book or anything, it's definitely in that same vein. So, it'll kind of fit right alongside. Like I said, it's a low budget X-Men basically. So I mean, it'll fit right up there with the rest of them.
Right. No, I agree. I like it. I like the thought of it. I forgot it existed until you brought it up and put it on your list, and then I was like, oh my god, I remember that show. It's kind of like there's so many shows that just had one season that probably should have gone further and stuff. I don't think all of them could come back now, but that one I think is one that could. Like I feel like you could rewrite it and push it forward.
Yeah.
I am going to say, let's see, which one should I do? I'm going to say the first one I'm going to do is actually, it was never a TV show, at least not that I know of. It was a movie, but it was a radio series, and that's how it started. And that is The Shadow. And
Yes.
I, The Shadow, right? It's darker. It could be way grittier than most superheroes, especially like with the drugs and all of that. Now it's a little kooky.
You
It
put that
was
like on Netflix or something, and I mean, you've got basically it's the perfect cross between like Batman slash Punisher slash noir, but you could also set it in a current day, that type of thing. So I
right.
mean, it fits all those little check marks.
Yeah. And I feel like it could totally transition. Like I know it was set back in that noir style, and it was a radio series first, and you could
Yeah,
that time and still have it play off and it would be relevant today. But I do think it's one of the ones that could actually
right.
be fast forward to now. And I just think it could be so dark and so beautifully done that I would love that. I liked the movie because it had that like 1940s not taking itself too serious thing going on.
Right. It was camp. Let's face it. It was total camp.
But if you really wanted to rewrite that for now, you could
Yeah.
make it very dark. I mean, it could be pushed in so many different ways. And I think you think Netflix. I actually think Amazon because they did The Boys.
Yeah, they're willing to go a little bloodier.
Yeah, and I think that
Get the guys that do the boys to do it.
The Shadow is one of those superheroes that you can just completely go a little bit more brutal with, like the
Yeah.
Punisher and stuff. And so, no, I would really like to see Shadow, the TV series, and I would like it to
Yeah.
be on the
Well,
streaming service.
kind of along those same lines. This is actually something. It was a comic book, then TV show, then really bad movie that we can pretend doesn't exist, and now it's actually being made into another movie that's ignoring the other movie. This is one that's along that same style as The Shadow, except I think that this one should not be updated for today, and I fear that's what they're going to end up doing with the movie. But this one should be set in the 40s and 50s or whatever. That being the Green Hornet. I think that you could totally do a new yet vintage noir style. Do it in black and white. That would be even better. But yeah, bring back the Green Hornet. I think you
Yeah,
could do some cool stuff.
I would love for them to do that. Like, and when you said black and white, that would be such a unique take on a TV show now that I just feel like it's sad because I love you know me, I love black and white movies, and they're so underrated a lot of the times
Oh
because people they're old. Like
yeah.
they're old. Yes, they are, but at the
Well,
same time,
you could actually take this whole thing a step further. I think we actually mentioned it briefly last night, but it's right up there with The Shadow, the Green Hornet, all of those. Uh, Horrible movie, but The Spirit,
yes,
also based on a comic book. It's right up there, same kind of thing as Green Hornet and The Shadow, and you could do it in that Sin City style. Do that black and white, that type of thing. That would be awesome. So, I mean, that's kind of my alternate for Green Hornet there.
I agree. I think that would be really cool, and I do think that Green Hornet lends itself more to staying in the 1940s and 50s. Like it's
Yeah,
just if you
it doesn't work as well now.
if you try to pull the camp out of it, I just don't think it would be as good. It has to have
Yeah.
some of that. Not as much as the movie had, but somewhere in between the old TV show and the movie is a good
Well,
balance.
what made the Green Hornet so great back in its time was like, Cato would invent these like really cool, really high tech, non lethal weapons and things that for their time were like unheard of. But now, you know, you've got the whole spectrum of special effects. So coming up with something in the modern day that would still be some kind of futuristic type tech for the Green Hornet to have, it's not going to happen. It'd be like, oh, he's got a gas gun that'll knock you out. So
Right. But
cops have that, you know, whatever.
I would love to see the Green Hornet though done if they did it in the style that it was originally done, but updated it in better, like better effects and stuff like that. But have
Right.
that style. No, I agree. I totally agree with that one.
What you got?
I got time traveling kid with the Voyager. The
The
Voyager
what?
was the Voyagers. Yeah.
Yes.
So Voyagers was this kid who like knew all kinds of history. He was like a history buff, and he met a time traveler, and he gets like to travel through time with this time traveler. I know we have Doctor Who, okay, but I think that the Voyager could be great for kids. Like I think they could reboot it for kids. And
Okay.
I actually think they could make the Voyager an animated series, and I think it would be good. I know we've been doing
You
live
got me
action,
at a disadvantage here. I know nothing about Voyager.
so he was
Star
just
Trek Voyager, sure, but not this one.
um, so he was there was this kid, and he just knew a lot about history. He was a history buff. He meets a time traveler, and if I remember right, because this was like I was very little. Um, he sneaks on to time travel with this guy, and then he ends up being like his companion, like the Doctor Who thing. But it's seen through the eyes of like a 10-year-old kid, and I think that's where it would be kind of interesting. Is
Right on. Okay.
and I think history is we've talked. You have a daughter who's in that like under the double digit age, and we've talked to
Right.
her history a little bit, and I just think that it would be a great way to teach kids about history, but still be fun. So
Sure.
yeah,
All right.
well, yeah. Now I had a movie I wanted to, or TV show I wanted to make a cartoon. Do you have a cartoon you want to make a TV show?
I do, as a matter of fact. How did you know? This is one. So this is a cartoon from the '80s, which I would love to see a bunch of those cartoons come back. Dungeons and Dragons. You've got, you know, just old school. I mean, a lot of them they have brought back, but they've modernized them in a way that I don't understand, like the new Thundercats thing. I don't get it. But which a Thundercats TV show. Now that I'm thinking about it, that there you go. But no, this is one that they tried to make into a movie. It even got a sequel. They were both just, oh God, bad. But I think we would make for a wonderful seasonal episodic show for like Netflix or Amazon, or maybe Amazon, because Netflix likes to cancel its shows too often. But GI Joe. Give
Yeah.
me a live action, high budget G.I. Joe TV show. I want it.
What's cool about that, and it's the same with the X Men. Like X Men's not on either one of our lists, but we've
Right.
touched base. Is we talked about this is the fact that there's so many characters in that GI Joe universe. There's so many X Men in the X Men universe that never get touched upon in the movies.
Well, it's because both of those movies followed the same problem. The G.I. Joe movies were all about Snake Eyes. Right. X-Men movie, all about Wolverine. There's some other people here that are pretty cool, you know. Right. But with the show, you can focus on this guy this week. You know, you got Shipwreck this week. You got, Junkyard Dog next week. You got this guy. You got this guy. You know, whatever.
I love Junkyard Dog. Oh my gosh, I forgot all about him. No, see, that would be great because it would be all within the same universe. You could cross them, but at the same time, you could focus on these characters that nobody really remembers because they just remember the main bad guy and the main, whatever, like good guy.
Yeah.
Like they remember he had a whole team. So no, I think that would be very interesting. I do think Amazon would be the place for that to go to. Like, I feel
Agreed.
like you have a love-hate relationship with Netflix anyway, so
Yes.
they
Get you
cancel.
hooked on 3 seasons and then cancel it for no apparent reason other than just because. Oh, our third season got higher ratings than the first 2 seasons combined. We're going to go ahead and pull the plug on it now.
Yes, yes. So that's terrible. But Amazon has done that too. Tick,
True, but not nearly as often.
oh, the Tick should have had another season. Um, but okay, so let's go on to the next one. So this one had a huge, huge following in the 80s. I don't know a guy, a teenage guy, or a guy my age who didn't love this show, and it's because it had a cool-looking guy, a car, and a hot girl, and the car talked, and that would be Knight Rider. If you made
They,
right,
they've tried to bring back Knight Rider a couple of times now, and for whatever reason, it hasn't worked, and I don't understand.
it has everything it needs. It just
Yeah,
needs to be done correctly. I think that Knight Rider could be potentially like super great fit for. I think it's more a network show. I think the
yeah, oh, yeah,
CW,
definitely.
like I think the CW could totally do something with like Kit, 2020 or something like that, and focus more on like the car because now the things that Knight Rider had that Kit had back then. I mean, we have some of that stuff in our phones now.
Right.
So that gave the car more independent thought and more, independent. Like I think you could cross it with like something like a good maximum overdrive. I know that sounds weird, but like he could be his own complete entity, and I think that would be
Yeah.
cool. Yeah.
I mean, or maybe you could go the complete opposite way with that, where, Kit is just now completely obsolete. And, then you can go into the identity crisis of Kit as he's trying to deal with all these cars that do the same thing that he does, but they're mass produced now.
That they don't.
Kit
Well, I
goes
mean,
to therapy,
Kit goes to therapy. That's YouTube show. That's somebody's gonna make that now, and we're
I
gonna
want
get.
to see that.
Oh no, but I feel like Knight Rider could potentially be done in a way that modernizes it and brings back some nostalgia, but not that you have to update so much with it because
Oh, yeah.
uh,
Yeah, like I mean, they've tried on at least 2 different occasions I can think of off the top of my head to bring back Knight Rider specifically. And then there was another show that was a ripoff of Knight Rider, except it had like 3 cars and some other stuff, and I forget what else. But like for whatever reason, all of those attempts have failed miserably, and I don't get it. 'Cause, I mean, it just that when we first brought up the topic last night, this was one of the first ones that came up was Knight Rider. It just makes sense,
yeah,
but for whatever reason, it just hasn't worked, and I don't get it.
I don't know either. I feel like I don't know, maybe the writing or something. It's just the thing with it is a lot of the times when they try to bring back shows, they try to force them too far into our now, and
Yeah,
then it destroys what they were, or they make them so campy and so ridiculous that it takes all the nostalgia out of it. Like it has to
yeah.
be some crime fighting car, like for it to be
You
a night.
and with all of these shows, especially like the ones in the part of the list that we've officially reached at this point, because like we started kind of the bottom of like I'd like to see this as a show, and the further up the list we go, especially when we hit like our last one, these are shows that like not only did we love when we were young, but like would be brought back not only because the show was good enough to be brought back, not only because the show would simply work in the now times, but nostalgia. And the thing about Knight Rider, or the thing about any of these shows really, is your reboot has to go one of 2 ways to work at all. One of those is you have to completely play off of the nostalgia for the show, which that's your number one way to work. Or you can go the opposite, more daring way and basically use the name and the bare bones premise of the show and go a totally different direction with it.
Right.
Which for Knight Rider, you almost have to go that second route, because I mean the first route, it would pretty much be, Kit is obsolete now, or I mean the only other alternative to that would be, like you said, where Kit is its own entity now, like a complete AI, like makes decisions on his own and doesn't need, Michael Knight at all, or something along those lines. What's the hook? What would you do to make that work? That's the big question.
For me, one, and I know this is going to sound terrible, but I think the driver needs to be a girl. And I'll
Okay.
tell you, because I think this day and age is, if you had a white male who womanizes every time he goes into town, I don't think that character would be as loved as it was back then. Like, I feel like people would be like, yeah, we don't want to watch this, good looking white guy hook up with all these girls every time he goes in town. I think you have to take that part out of it a little bit. And I think that having a girl would, I know you and I have issues with this, but sometimes having a girl is going to make the show go forward. And sometimes they just put them in there
Well,
just for PC sake.
the yes, and this the issue that we have with this, and allow me to clarify, is I call it forced diversity, where they make it a woman or they make it a person of a different ethnicity simply for the purpose of doing that.
Right.
Don't do that. Please don't do that. Do that if the person, for one of two things. One, if it makes sense for the story, then fine, do that. If you're just casting a person, does not matter, male, female, white, black, whatever, the person who did the best audition for the part, that's the person that gets the part, regardless of what age, race, ethnicity, sex, whatever they are. Just don't make it one just to make it
one. Right, and I agree with that. Like, I think the reason I think that Knight Rider would be good with a girl is to push the story forward more.
So that it's not a male chauvinistic pig like David Hasselhoff.
Right. He was.
It's the polar opposite of that. I get it.
Right, and I think that you could get in more broader audience if you did that way.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily need to know their sexual orientation, or like, none of that matters to me. I just think that if you had a girl,
it would be very interesting to see it with a female lead and have the female lead actually fall in love with Kit.
Yeah, no, I was gonna go
like,
there.
Not necessarily the car, but the AI that is Kit.
Yeah, it could be very Black Mirror-ish.
Yeah.
Like, it could be a very, and I think that's interesting. I think it's also interesting.
Yes, it is.
Back in the day,
there's your hook.
Yeah, Kit back in the day had, like the mechanic was a girl, which was like a thing back in the day. But like, he had kind of like a banter going with her, and I just think that if you have that go, but she's the writer, she's the one who fights the injustice and stuff like that, I think it would be interesting. So there's one of my other ones. What's one of yours?
All right, let's see. Now this is actually, it was a movie turned TV show that I loved and then forgot all about up until very, very recently. We were rewatching V, which remake V, but do it right, because that one that came out a few years ago was not that. But no, this reminded me of it, and it's, I think, in the social climate that we are currently finding ourselves in, this is a show that could really speak to a lot of people now. That being Alien Nation. Not a lot of people remember it, but you had alien race comes down. Their ship basically crash lands on Earth, and so they kind of start. They're very humanoid, except they have like they're all bald with like spots on their head and stuff, and they kind of start integrating with society. And a lot of people are very, that they hate them because they're different or because they're aliens, and I forget what they call them now, and that's going to bother me. If somebody remembers, comment, please, because I can't remember what they called the aliens in that, and it's gonna bug me. Anyway,
Hey, if you know,
what?
Jay
Yes.
Jay, if you know, let
Oh,
us
it's
know.
gonna be so bad. I keep wanting to say like the others, and I know that that's not but it's something like that. But anyway, I think kind of given we live in very strange times where it feels like it's 1954 all of a sudden, and I don't understand why that is. But regardless, this is a show that I mean, especially you mentioned making it a girl, and this is kind of a place where maybe some forced diversity would work, especially
Right.
with the aliens in the show. Maybe you could purposely make them one specific ethnicity or something along those lines to spark some debate, if nothing else.
Or
I mean, the whole purpose of the show was social equality and equality, and yeah,
it would
and I
be
think we need that right now.
it would be kind of cool if they were like asexual or something like that. Like
Yeah,
because then you wouldn't have like it would be something that people wouldn't understand or as much and stuff like that. No, I
right.
agree. I think diversity in that one would work, and I think
Yes,
that it would work because that show's premise was about not about breaking down some discrimination barriers and stuff like that, and to try to find the humanity in everyone, even people or even aliens that weren't human. So I
yeah,
agree with that one.
yeah.
Good job.
I think this is a good time for that one.
Yeah, no, I
Short
agree.
and sweet.
Short and sweet. So the next one I have on my list is I'm going way back, and it's a show that I watched with my mom and my grandma, and they redid
Man.
it. They
Oh,
redid it. They redid it in the 90s. I think it was the 90s, and they did it okay. And then they made a horrible, horrible movie with it.
oh, okay. I know what you're doing now.
Yeah. But I think that if they went really dark on this one, like Bloomhouse really like horrored up,
True Blood, Dirk. Very True Bloodish esque, sort of.
and that's Shadows. I think Dark Shadows, in
Don't
my
think Johnny Depp slash what's his face? No, Tim
uh,
Burton. No, no.
no, I'm talking like the 1960s Dark Shadows was a dark, for the time, a dark soap opera. And I think if you made it a dark soap opera now, but more grown up, not Vampire Diaries type of, let's get the teenagers hooked, but an actual adult. You know,
Twilight.
oh my God. You know what I'm talking about though, but like an actual adult, grown
Yes.
up, like you're going to show stuff like that they show in period pieces because he's a
Make
vampire.
vampires scary again.
Yes, yes. And
If it's this or anything else, I don't care. Hollywood, please
make
make
something
vampires scary again.
we don't need sparkly ones. I think that Dark Shadows is a great one because it could go really, really dark. It could go horror, and it's still horror soap opera. And I think that interests me. A horror soap opera, like, could be. I would watch it. So that's the next one.
Is that
I
all
love
you got to say on that one?
so
Okay, so my next one, it was one of my absolute favorite shows growing up. Unfortunately, it's one of those shows that isn't as good going back and watching them now, but the premise is still fantastic, and it's still every bit as beloved in my mind and in my heart. And again, the superhero thing is huge right now, and we need superheroes and we need to laugh. So let's have both. with the greatest American hero. How has not been at least made into a movie, I don't understand. But I think it belongs as a show, and any of the streaming services would work. I don't want to see it on network because I want it to have a budget and not be swept under the rug like everything else on network. But I don't care. Give just yes. Bring back Ralph Hinckley / Hanley, depending on which part of the show you're watching.
That was an issue. I didn't realize that until I rewatched it because I rewatched it.
What, the name change?
Yes. What was up
For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about here, the show starts out and his name was Ralph Hinckley. Then about midway, about, I don't know, 12, 15 some odd episodes, or maybe even less than that, I don't know. Halfway through the first season, all of a sudden his name changed to Ralph Hanley. And then from then on, it was Ralph Hanley. And it bugged me for years. And finally, just maybe a year or two ago, I finally found out why. And it was because Ralph Hinckley, well, of course, shortly after the show started airing, Reagan was shot by Hinckley. So they're like, well, we don't want to associate our character with that, so let's change his last name and hopefully no one will notice.
That makes sense to me. I didn't even, my mind just went, why would you change your main character's last name?
Well, what bothered me when I first noticed it, the show was in syndication, so I'm watching it on television still, and I guess we're playing shows out of order. So it's like one episode would be Hinckley, the next episode would be Hanley, the next episode would be back to Hinckley. I'm like, wait a minute, did they just forget his last name? Somebody wrote the wrong name down and no one seemed to know what happened. But no, they changed it after Hinckley shot Reagan. So
so much
didn't want to associate with that. So good call. But yes, I mean that's a premise that could live in any generation. I think late 90s, early 2000s, they were talking about doing a movie. And thank God they didn't, because it would have ended up being a boner comedy, as they're known from around that time. Your American Pies, your whatever, where it's all just sex, awkwardness, and alcohol. They were talking about Ashton Kutcher playing Ralph, and God, no. But now all of the dust has settled on those times, and we can have something that's a little smarter, adventurous yet fun is, I think, the right level to keep that at. It's not really a comedy. I mean, yes, it's a funny show, and yes, he is very goofy and awkward, but not necessarily a comedy. It's just a fun show.
It could go, though. You could play it off like they did the Tick.
Yeah.
Could go.
Funny yet serious. Yeah. That was just, it was very fun but balanced. Yes.
Yeah.
Bring back the Tick, Amazon.
I agree. We watched it and we were like, why? Is he gonna get his Tick? He's gonna get it. I love the Tick.
Bring it back.
It's not
Bring
on
it
our
back.
list. Bring it back. And our list is about shows that we want rebooted or extended or something. But yeah, the Tick needs to come back. Santa Clarita's Diet needs to come back. So there's a couple of them.
I will say, as far as the Amazon Tick went, it did end beautifully.
It did.
It's like, yes, there were a couple of loose ends, but the fact that it ended with the Tick running out the door and for the very first time yelling "spoon," I was like, okay, no, it's all right. You can end it there. It's okay. But bring back.
Yeah. Well, and then the thing is I think they could bring it back, or at least go and bring back, they can follow the other characters a little bit and have the Tick come in once in a while, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But
well, they tried to shop it around to Netflix and Hulu and a couple other places, and they were really hopeful that it was going to get picked up somewhere else, and it just didn't. So
many shows.
I'm sad.
I know. A
What are we
show
talking
that
about? Oh yeah.
a show that I liked that I didn't write on my list, but I thought of it like while I was setting this up is American Gothic. Um, I don't know if anybody remembers American Gothic, but it was about a corrupt sheriff who was actually the devil and his son. And so I think that that could be very cool if they did it in a American Horror Story way. Or I would be happy if American Horror Story, because they change the theme every year, if they would do an American Gothic like theme for one season. I would be thrilled with that.
There you
That
go.
show got left on a cliffhanger and never got picked up, and I hate that. I hate that when they do that, and
There's
I
a
love it.
topic for an episode for you. Just shows that ended on a cliffhanger that make you want to hurt somebody
Yeah,
because they will never be answered.
yeah. Maybe we'll do that next time, or maybe we do that for Skallywag. So,
Yeah.
but
There's
yeah,
too
that
many to do that for a Skallywag episode. Good Lord.
we just did our
I
top
say
five.
that after my last video was 2 hours long, but well worth the watch.
I know. Yeah, 50 plus hours of editing on that last video. So if you guys haven't gone and watched that last video, you guys can go over and
You can
find
skip
it on
about the
YouTube.
first 20 minutes. The first 20 minutes is all set up and stuff, but once I actually get into like showing clips and talking about those clips and stuff, then well worth the watch from there. And I promise you, skip that intro and it's hilarious from there on out.
And you can see I put down there, Skallywag
I
Productions
see
on
that,
YouTube. So,
right?
you can,
That's me.
yeah, that was you. Look at that. And we'll put that at the end as well. And you can always find it. We share it when when we have Geeky Cool, your videos go on Geeky Cool.
Typically, I do videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday after editing for literally 51 hours straight.
Yeah,
No sleep, no nothing. She can vouch. I decided to take this week off, but videos will be back starting Monday.
So
Monday, Wednesday. Anyway, whose turn is it? Is it me?
So it's your
Is
turn.
it my turn? My
Yeah.
turn. Oh, okay. I guess I have just a couple left here. So this one is going to be a very stylized, very specific thing. So Supernatural is coming to an end. And I have what I believe would be the perfect show to, pick up the torch and keep it running after Supernatural is gone. And that is a live action Scooby-Doo in the style of Supernatural.
Well, they did the
Specifically in the style of Supernatural. Not a cartoon. It's not campy. It's not silly, stupid, funny, whatever. It's Supernatural style, Mystery Inc. You'd have to use a dog and just CGI his mouth or something. I don't care how you do it. But they made so many Scooby-Doo references on that show, it would be perfect.
I agree. I did tell you though, I hate CG animals. They
do too.
bug me to the point of no return. So they would have to do a live dog and then CG its mouth. Or my theory with
It
this,
just looks so much better that way.
yeah, my thought with this, and I told you last night, was I would like, because you have the brothers from Supernatural. If you could carry the torch and pass it over to Velma and Daphne, and just have the girls do it, and then have Shaggy and all of them show up.
The rest of them cameos. Or maybe Scooby-Doo just has like a mental link with Shaggy or something. So only Shaggy hears him. So you just have a dog and then you just hear a voiceover. Or so I don't care how you do it. It would be a fun show, and it would be the new Supernatural.
Don't do full CG dog like the Wild Harrison Ford thing.
Yeah, no.
No. If anybody is still watching, because we haven't had any more comments, and I don't know if it's because I haven't set this up correctly yet, but if anybody is still watching, and if the CG animals bug them as much as they bug me, please just give me a thumbs up or
It's
do
like
it.
Uncanny Valley, but worse.
Oh,
So, did
terrible.
you have any more, or are we finally to our main dish here?
I have one more, and it's an extend, and that's why I saved it. And then we have the one that we both agree that we want. So
Okay.
the one that I think would be good to extend is something along the lines of Xena or Hercules. And I'm
Oh
not
yeah.
about like a remake of the whole series. I think it would be cool if there was something set in that universe. And maybe a different superhero with the mythology and all of that stuff. And I think that would be very cool. I loved Xena. I loved Hercules. Hercules, I
She's
loved
got
the
the Xena Funko Pop today.
I did get. I actually bought myself a Funko Pop. Like imagine that. Usually Shboo buys my Funko Pops for me. But I think it would be really cool. With like Percy Jackson and all those shows, all those movies and books, if they would do something set like Xena or Hercules, that hour-long drama where they go and help people, but it was set, in that mythological time. I think it would work well. So,
Yeah.
but I don't necessarily want a reboot of those shows. I just want an extension of that
Like
universe.
continuation years later, like they're kids or something.
Yeah, I mean, both Gabrielle and Xena had kids. Hercules did not, but still, you could seriously like do something along those
Yeah.
veins, and I work. So
Yeah.
now I only one left. You have one left.
Same here. And this is so we saved this one for last because it's the one that we agree the most on. And again, this is not a reboot. Was a soft reboot. And that's where it's a new show, but still a continuation of the old. So this, to give it some build up here, some tension. The way that this show ended, it left it completely wide open. Not only have there been movies discussed, but there have been new series discussed, even as recently as just a couple of years ago, of picking it back up and continuing the story. They've never talked about doing a reboot. It's always been a continuation, and that is Quantum Leap.
Oh, we love Quantum Leap. It's like Quantum.
That's
So
favorite show of all time outside of the Twilight Zone, the original Twilight Zone.
right.
But yes, with the way that show ended, it just simply said Dr. Beckett never returned home. And as of 2016, 2017, so just a couple of years ago, Scott Bakula and Dean Stockwell were even talking about they still have discussions from time to time about picking the show back up, and it's Sam's daughter basically basically restarting Project Quantum Leap and going into the accelerator, going back in time to try to find her father. And he would show up every once in a while, and yeah,
Well,
it would be great.
and the end of it, Al's history got rewritten because of
Yes.
it, and so he got to be with the love of his life, and they had children, and so we've talked about, like instead of Al being Al, like you have Al's children and Sam's child, like restarting this just to give them that. And I think it would be great. I would love to see it. First of all, there's been so much history that's happened between the time Quantum Leap ended and now that
Oh god, yeah.
going through that alone would be amazing. And since Quantum Leap, I know people are like he can only jump within his timeline, but there have been a couple times, or at least one. There was one
There's been a
time,
few.
yeah, that
There
he
were a
jumped.
few.
I know the one he jumped all the way back to like Civil War
Civil
time.
War. He jumped into his great great grandfather,
Exactly.
and then there was when he and Al had switched places, so he jumped through Al's lifetime and stuff like that. But
That
the only problem that I foresee with Quantum Leap now, I mean, you go back and you watch these episodes where they were controversial at the time, where he leaped into a woman, or he leaped into a black man, or he leaped into, a mentally challenged person. And I could see those being kind of hot button episodes now. And I don't know how people would take it now. And that's unfortunate because I think the message there, Sam was a good enough person that it never became weird, or, you know, he was never a woman like checking himself out in the mirror or anything, you know. You never had that moment of like, you know, looking at the tits or something, but he never did that. He was the Boy Scout. And I think that's why it was able to get by without people getting upset about it. But I don't know now
how they would do it now. I mean, that's true, but I do think that it could be. I think it could still be interesting, especially if they jumped with, because they did pick up on some really controversial, like, time periods. You
yeah
know, like the 50s and 60s for the civil rights. They go back. He went back, and there's that great episode where he jumped into the black man and, you know, and sat down, and they were like, what are you doing, and, you know, and all of that. And if you picked up on all of those, if you played it right, if you wrote it right, if you wrote it in a very witty, intellectual way, I think it could work. And that's the great thing about
you would just have to be careful with things like, you know, that particular episode where he sits down at the counter and things. It was sort of like the Driving Miss Daisy type episode. And it was like the challenge that he had to put right was saving her life. And but there was still a moment like at the end where it was, you know, where he's telling him go back in and sit down, you know, or she's telling him go in and sit down, and he wouldn't leap until he did it. And I mean, you could just, you know, I could see the argument being that for a white, going with Sam Beckett, at least in this, you know, in this particular scenario, where like a white man leaping into a black person that failed the first time around, so it takes the white man to make the black man do it, you know, just something along those lines, which is, I mean, I'm going as far-fetched as I can possibly think of here for example's sake, but like, as long as they were careful enough to not make it seem like that's the case, you know, then I think it would be okay.
The white guy isn't the savior.
Right.
I watch Quantum Leap. Sam fails. Like, he fails, or he fails at common things. You know, things that you think are really important. He fails sometimes.
Right.
So,
well, and the issue was never about like, do this thing to help the black community go forward with civil rights or anything. It was save this person's life. You just happen to be a black person when you do it.
Yeah.
So, you know, and so that's fine. That's what I'm saying. As long as they didn't do something that made it seem like, oh, the white man's doing this for us or whatever. As long as it didn't seem like that, then I think it'd be fine. But there's always going to be a group of people mad about it regardless. So it doesn't really matter.
True.
Still needs to happen.
No matter what happens, there are going to be people who are like offended by stuff.
Yes.
And that's very sad, especially when it comes to entertainment and stuff like this. And Larry and I are we already have our topic for next week. I don't know if you're going to join us or not, but I'm sure the invitation will be, you know, put out there. But we're going to talk about
it's the first I'm hearing about it.
I know. Well, you were like smoking a cigarette when we talked about it. So, you know, there's that. You missed a lot. But no, so next week we're going to have a topic that's a little controversial and very on point with what's going on right now. And so we hope that you guys watch that. I love our list. I think, I mean, we could have gone into way more.
Oh, God, yeah.
Drew and I have these conversations, you guys, and I swear the conversations that happen in this living room are just completely out there.
The original idea was for us to do 10 apiece, and I mean we've gone an hour with 6 apiece. So
well, we both are a little long-winded when we get passionate about stuff, so just a little. But No. I hope you guys like our list. If you guys have other shows that you would like or movies that you would think would have been better as TV shows, like we hit on like the X-Men and stuff like that. Um, if you have things like that that you think would be better, put it in the comments. Send us a message if you guys want to write an article for Geeky Cool once it gets back up. Let us know. We're always looking for contributors, and it doesn't even have to be on a permanent basis. If you just want to write one article for us, that's great. I'm trying to get that one there to write more articles for us. But he does do video,
I
and he does
do articles like this.
he does
These are my articles.
videos. And so he brings us a lot of videos, and that is on our website, which is actually not running right now. We're going to be finding a new host. See if I can.
So if anybody knows of any good hosts for Geeky Cool,
Well, Larry's looking at one now, and so we're hoping to get back up there soon. So be sure to check us out on GeekyKOOL.com. And until then, you can find us on our Facebook and Twitter and everything. We have our friends over at Pop Culture Minefield, and that's Keith and Gary. And they bring you stuff like we do, but they don't censor themselves. What? What was that look?
I don't know. It sounded like something just slammed into the wall.
Oh, I didn't hear anything out here. So, uh, who knows? We
No
have a
idea.
no, it's a thing. But go say hi to our friends Keith and Gary's. Let them know that the Geeky Cool crew sent you over there, and they're on YouTube. They're also on Facebook. I know Keith does live videos all the time for them. We have. I'm figuring this out, like over here. We have the Nerd Informants on YouTube and Facebook. Tim and Josh are awesome, and I think they're great, and they're funny, and they bring you lots of movie reviews and stuff like that, especially when movies are actually going on, which should be in a month or two, hopefully.
Yeah.
I know our movie theater shut down until July, so I don't know. And then check out our partner in crime, my partner in everything, and that would be like you're so happy about that, and that would be Spoo over at Skallywag Productions. You're on YouTube, you're on Instagram, you're on Facebook, you're on Twitter.
Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all those good things. You know, come look at my ugly mug.
I
3
look at
times a week.
but yeah, he posts the collectible of the day, so all those things that you see behind him.
All this crap.
I think he has almost a half a year's worth of toys that he can post. So every day he posts one, and it's a featured thing, and that's on his Instagram. You're just so blurry going
Screwed
through
up
that.
my tripod, so now I'm going to be like this the rest of the time.
Okay.
They look good at this angle. Hey.
Oh my god. And of course, don't forget to go give us a like on Facebook and Twitter, and that's GeekyKOOL.com. Next week, Professor will be back, and I will be here. Hopefully, like I'm supposed to start back to work, so I don't have my schedule yet. But we'll see. We'll see what happens, and if not, it'll be. Are you like?
What?
You're just cracking me up. You're getting closer and closer and closer.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Oh, help me, guys. Help me. Seriously. So, yeah, go check us out and all those things. And Jay, thanks for saying hi to us. I know that we had like several people watching us at different times, but nobody said hi. I think they don't like talking to me as much as they do the professor. So, but guys, we will see you next week. Are you good, Skallywag? You gonna sign off?
I'm good. Yeah.
You're good? Yeah. That's what I was waiting for. Bye guys.
Bye. Maybe.